Welcome to Fandom Post Radio. I am Kestrel. We have Cain.
Hello.
We have Brandon.
Yo.
And we have Mark.
Hello.
By the time you're hearing this, you probably already know that the second season of Frieren is the best anime of 2026, but we're recording this before that started airing. So for now, we've got to look back at whatever 2025 had.
I saw the dumbest bullshit for that today, real quick. It was just on my newsfeed, and all it said was, the second season of Frieren is the anime that will transform your soul for all eternity. That was an honest headline. And I was like, I don't even know if the first episode's out yet, and you're already saying that it is going to change my life forever. I'm like, I love Frieren as much.
These are dangerous levels of glazing.
Yeah, I was like, I love Frieren as much as the next person, but fuck you.
Well, apparently fuck me, because I also just made that joke.
At least yours was a joke. This was an honest headline on an article that wanted me to read it.
Anyway, 2025 was alright too. Granted, it was the 1 year that we had no Frieren, but we've got some good stuff anyway. So, as always, we're going to count down our top anime from the past year, telling you why they were the best, and reading some of your lists as well. Then we will aggregate them all together in the end. Yeah, so anyone have anything to add before we start jumping into it?
Nope.
The only thing I wanted to add before I started and we started is, what's funny is that I noticed, at least, but even though this year, I don't know if you could say it had a whole lot of like really like heavy hitters like a Frieren or an Attack on Titan or whatever, I think this is, at least for me, one of the hardest to rank seasons, if only because there's a lot of my shows have like nothing fucking in common with each other.
Yeah.
So I couldn't compare them evenly in a lot of ways. So it made things tough, especially at the lower part of the list, where it was just like, how do you compare stop motion animation slice of life to rom-com to post-apocalyptic robot hotels? Like, how?
Yeah,
so.
That's true. I feel like this one was harder to just put in. Like my like 3 through 5 was a lot harder to sort out this year than it has been previously. So yeah, I feel like there's not as many just like, yeah, I know our aggregate ranking, like this will be the top 2, but I mean, it'll probably be Demon Slayer, but I don't know. We'll see. At least from the added of everyone else too, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how good of taste my friends have, because it's pretty much all just my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was the opposite. Most of my top 5 are dumb shonen battle shit. So yeah,
par for the course.
Yeah, I'm
Look
still
at this guy over here.
For me.
This troglodyte of anime over here.
All right, so we'll get into it. So yeah, we're focusing on our top 5s. We'll consider anything else kind of an honorable mention. But as always, I do have a full top 10, so I'll just quickly go through my 10 through 6. So my number 10 is The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast recently, but essentially it's an adorable, wholesome romance following sincere, lovable kids who show enough self-awareness and introspection to overcome the common tropes that plague a lot of high school romance anime. And it's all presented in beautiful Cloverworks animation. Cain is attacking me for my placement of this. Yes, you'll hear
right
more.
out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
I am too, but I'm doing it silently. I'm silently judging you from all the way over here.
That's fine. I'll take your judgment. Now, I'm sure future seasons will be higher up on my list in future years. This was just very much kind of the table setting of the story, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the relationship really develops from where this season ended. My number 9 is the exact opposite. Takopi's Original Sin.
Oh man.
Contrary to Fragrant Flower, in this series, everyone's a bad person. They all make the worst possible decisions, and every development is completely depressing. But as it tackles very heavy topics, it has a lot to say about the nature of generational trauma and corruption of naive innocence. And it also has a very unique and viscerally detailed aesthetic. My number 8 is 100 meters. Also, perhaps offensively low. You could probably say that about Takopi too.
We have reverse lists.
I know. Well, I think we have those two next to each other in the same order, just yours are much higher. But yeah, this is 100 meters. Feature film came out pretty recently for the US, I think like New Year's Eve on Netflix. It had some theatrical screenings over here, so I saw it a little while ago. But it's essentially Ping Pong the animation from the creator of Orb with the subject matter of Run with the Wind, plus a touch of Look Back, and it's adapted by the guy who did nearly everything on Ongaku, which I haven't actually seen Ongaku, which Brand's probably going to kill me for. Yeah. But comparing something to the other 4 of those titles is all compliments coming from me. It's also probably the best use of this much rotoscoping I've ever seen in anime. And, both this and Orb are very deep philosophical storytelling. And this manga was released when the creator was 21 years old. So,
wow.
Kind of insane, yeah. My number 7 is not the same cute, fuzzy, relaxing stop motion that Cain has on his list, but it is one of those, and that is My Melody and Kuromi, which may come as a surprise in my top 10, but if you happen to remember 6 years ago, one of my top 10 of 2019 was Rilakkuma and Kaoru, and surprisingly, these two are from completely different studios, staff, even different cute mascot companies for the source material, but they are extremely similar in that charming fuzzy stop motion style, and this one is both the typical relaxing embrace of cuteness and surprisingly a much more narrative driven story than Rilakkuma. And my number 6 is Kingdom, 6th season, appropriately. I didn't plan that. I'd probably put Kingdom on my top 10 anime for several years, since we've been getting about one season a year, and they've been good. So I don't think I have that much more to say about the season, except it's very eventful, lots of big action set pieces, very satisfying developments. So yeah, those are my 10 through 6, and then that brings me to my number 5, which is My Hero Academia final season. Like I said, we're in the big ones now. It's all shonen bullshit. We've been talking about this one a lot lately since it just wrapped up, and it concludes the entire series after nearly a decade. And it's a series that has had a lot of ups and downs throughout its seasons, but this was by far the strongest season. It was firing on all cylinders from beginning to end. It felt bigger and more meaningful than it ever has. It feels exactly like you would hope a climactic final season would feel. And it's more impactful because it has such tighter pacing than any of the previous seasons did. This final season's only 11 episodes, and 3 of them are like post-battle epilogue material. So it really wraps up like all the big climaxes in 8 episodes. And it also delivers on a lot of character drama very effectively, both during and outside of the fighting. It makes me love characters that I never liked before. Bakugo is the kind of number one there, where I appreciated him a few seasons in, but he was still like kind of on my shit list pretty often. But episode 3 of this season was just phenomenal and kind of made me love him in a way that I never thought 20 episodes would, or 20 minutes in an episode would. And yeah, the climax really has all the hallmarks of shonen action spectacle that we love to see. It's exactly the kind of payoff that makes me glad that I never dropped the series, even when it was testing my patience.
It was worth sticking out.
Yeah,
that's for
stuck
sure.
The landing. Yeah, it validates my questionable choices to continue on when it was not really firing.
Yeah, I mean, I directly felt that when I was writing the weekly episodes for Fandom Post. During the parts I would say for me was like the low of it, kind of like season 4 into 5 territory. But yeah, as we've talked in previous episodes, Bones, they did their thing and they wrapped it up real nice.
Indeed.
It is funny thinking back at earlier seasons when at least Kestrel, you were watching and sort of reviewing along with the podcast. And some of those middle seasons, I remember you talking about like, man, this, I don't know if I can handle another like school field trip arc or whatever. Like, this is getting rough. But it's nice to see that it came back around and was good again, because there was some dry times in that desert there in the middle. So
absolutely, yep.
Yeah, if I wasn't reading the manga, there were definitely moments that were droppable spots. So.
Agreed. But
I wonder how that feels in the manga versus the anime. Like when
you've talked about that, right, Brian?
A little bit, yeah.
Where it's like maybe it's a little more tolerable because you can just flip, get through it. But
and I think conversely, we'd also talked in previous episodes about how, even though I haven't read the manga, but Brant has, that the anime also, this season in particular, kind of goes the opposite direction, where previous seasons really screwed with the material and the pacing and the structure. This season improved it a lot because it's able to layer like the multiple storylines within a single episode, whereas when you're reading weekly and you only get 20 pages, you may be disappointed by lack of development.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. So, Bran, you want to go next?
Yeah. So I also conveniently wrote a top 10. So 10 through 6 will be my honorable mention runner-ups. So yeah, let's kick it off. Number 10, I'm going with To Be Hero X. This one was kind of right on the line where there were moments when this show was like really bad to me, but I think there were moments that were really good. So I thought it was at least worth including in the list just because it was very innovative and stylish in its animation approaches and a lot of its visual design. And it just sucks that a lot of that was bogged down by needing too many character origin stories and some multi-episode plots in the second half that just like really bogged it down. And also, that's when the show's visual flares like dried up quite a bit. So it's a show that had a lot of promise, and I think still does if they continue the project. But yeah, definitely at least worth a watch. My number 9 is going to be My Hero Academia final season. As we just said, Bones stuck the landing. I think the show was firing on all cylinders in a way it probably hadn't been for a few seasons. And yeah, I was extremely impressed and satisfied with how it ended. So yeah, it could go even higher, but like to me, I thought the jus of so many of the other shows on this list carried a distinct recognition, whereas like MHA, it really would have needed some like huge thing that separated it from my previous feelings on it. So yeah. Next up is The Summer Hikaru Died, and my number 8 spot. I really vibed with this show in terms of just the general atmosphere and the just kind of like the back and forth between the main protagonists and the dilemmas they were going through socially. And yeah, I was expecting to like it, but not as much as I did, honestly. And I feel like the show could have had a more compelling spot where it stopped, but that does not detract from me like being excited for more of it to come. And then in my number 7 spot, we have Anne Shirley. And this one, I think, it's one of those that, as someone who didn't really watch much of the Takahata adaptations or like any of the previous adaptations, the live actions, or read the books or anything, I kind of understand now why this is a story that time and time again is being recreated, because it is, it's slow paced, but it's like beautiful coming of age story. And yeah, not much more to say about that besides my boy Gil.
Yeah, Gil. Pulling in
and
the
then-
W. He just almost had to die.
Yeah. Pulled himself up from the depths of hell, man. And then in my number 6 spot is My Dress Up Darling Season 2. This one for me was like the dark horse of my list, where when I first started watching it, the first season, I was like, that was a fun show. And somehow the second season like transcended what I thought a sequel could be for a show like that. It like really, I feel like, pushed the boundary for a lot of its production. And, it was just, to me anyways, such a much more compelling watch than the first season. So it like really took me aback, and I loved it from beginning to end. So like, I'm really excited for that series to keep going now. So yeah, that's my
spoiler
number
alert.
6.
We'll talk about this some more a little later on.
Yeah. And then to kick off my top 5, I have Yaiba, or Shin Samurai Den Yaiba. Yaiba, the Samurai Legend. This one to me makes my top 5 on aura alone, really. I think there's a lot of heavy hitting, like you will see a trend of like my top 5 are all very beautifully animated shows, but Yaiba just kind of like knocked it out of the park in a way that like only it could do. And that's because to me, it felt like watching a Saturday morning cartoon as a kid. The only difference is when you watch a lot of those things now, you look back and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that does not look how I kind of remember it. This looks like how my child brain made action in those shows look, So I think, yeah, it had a bit, the story was nothing to shake a stick at. It was very just like, monster of the week for the most part. They're like, oh, we got to collect all these magical orbs to defeat the demon king, who literally like his rival, whose name is Onimaru. Like, it's really not that hard to like understand what's going on, but like it was fun all the way throughout, and they really were swinging for the fences in almost every episode. It was just like such a thrill to watch, and yeah, I love it, and I hope we get more of it. I mean, they had a full, I think it was basically a nonstop 24 episode season with studio just like, I don't know, like there's some studios that can take some lessons from like how they managed to do that. But yeah, that's my number 5 pick.
Yeah, how you describe that as your what your childhood brain thought your Saturday morning cartoons looked like. That's how I describe like Bleach 1000-Year Blood War. Like,
yeah,
that's how my 2004 brain thought that 2004 Bleach looked. And it's like makes me feel like a kid again. And honestly, you could probably say the same about a lot of my top 5, because there's a lot of that, like, yeah, just really beautifully animated, action-packed, not necessarily the most deep content, but yeah, we'll get to some more of those.
Yeah, how I felt watching like Bleach AMVs in 2005 versus like actually rewatching the Arankar arc and being like, oh man, this is tough.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Cain, do you want to go next?
I suppose I can. So, my honorable mentions first. So, at 10, I have my own fuzzy and cute stop motion anime, which is Pokemon Concierge Part 2. So, uh, don't have a ton to say about this other than very cute and similar to how Brand described Yaiba as being what Saturday morning cartoons felt like. This is what I would like to think Pokemon being in our world would be like, and not horrific weapons of war. So I would like to believe you just go on vacations and you hang out with Psyduck and, everyone makes cute noises and all sorts of stuff. Then number 9 was Spy Family Season 3. 8 was City the Animation. This is one of the first ones I had a tough time really ranking. And I mean, honestly, the only reason it was as low on the list as it was is I just don't get some of the humor, and that's on me. I love the art. I think it's one of the prettiest looking, most like high energy, well produced anime that I can remember. It feels like watching a storybook come to life in the best ways possible. But some of the humor, especially the very Japanese language based humor, just went completely over my head. So love the slapstick. Not so much the other stuff because I'm an ignorant sack of shit. Number 7. Oh, sorry, Bran, you wanted to say something real quick?
Yeah, just real quick. I think that is the comedy itself is like the Achilles heel of that author, because I feel like the same thing was said about Nichijou when it got adapted, because it's like people love the art style and all that stuff, but it's like, half the jokes are like, what was that skit about? Like, I don't even really understand it. So yeah, I totally get it. That's kind of how it is being a Gintama fan too, where you have to tell people, man, this show's it's the funniest show I've ever watched, but there will be about 400 jokes about like some low-key Japanese like manzai guy or like comedian that like you're not gonna know who they're talking about.
A politician from 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like if Japanese people watch Family Guy and they made like a John McCain joke.
Yeah, all those like Conway Twitty cutaways. They're like, what is happening?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, Conway Twitty. Yeah, 100%. So it would be much higher on my list if we were just accounting for the humor that I understood. So
fair.
Number 7 is Apocalypse Hotel. I really enjoyed this show as well. Had a couple issues with how the story sort of unfolds later on, but I'm a sucker for some of these like dystopian slice of life things where there's always sort of a hidden dread or a hidden menace. And then number 6 is Grand Blue Dreaming Season 2. This I love the humor for. The stupid, immature drinking humor is something that I always love. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as Season 1, if only because I found there was a little bit of a lack of insane face art, which was some of my favorite, but I did enjoy, I think my favorite joke of the season was the ongoing putting a lighter over glasses of water to prove to people that it's water.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that got me every time. So,
classic.
Yeah, it's very good. I need to read the manga, because I know, Kestrel, you said, like, the face game is on point in the manga.
Absolutely.
Very much so, yes.
So I should read it to really get my fix. And then number 5, we've already heard this once already, but my number 5 is Anne Shirley. And this is an interesting one in that City the Animation was ranked lower than I would have done because of humor. Anne Shirley is only ranked at 5 because the pacing in season 2 is dog shit. I love Anne Shirley. Like, this is the first anime that I've ever watched that had like a novel base where I went out and read the novel afterwards, at least the first one, and really enjoyed that novel as well. And honestly, I felt the pacing of season 1 after reading the novel really wasn't that bad. Like, the first season, or core, I guess, the first core covers all of the big things that happen in the book. It does do one of the characters dirty, which is the pastor's wife. Bran, I don't know if you remember, but she's a part of like one of the episodes, and Anne is very smitten with her because she's a very fancy lady. Well, in the book, she becomes much more of a role model for Anne. she's still not mentioned very frequently, but she does come up more often, and Anne looks up to her as a role model of sorts for what like a grown woman should be. Considering in her life at that point, who does she really have until the teacher comes in? She has like Marilla, who is advanced in age and everything, and is a totally different personality than Anne and everything. So while she's a great motherly figure, and I love Marilla, she's not going to be like a role model for who Anne should be and who Anne wants to be. So the pastor's wife gets a little bit of the short end of the stick. But as Brainy mentioned earlier, Gilbert gets his W. Woo. After he just has to get fucking typhoid fever first. But
oh man,
our man does it. But it also has like a beautiful world. Prince Edward Island is an incredible place. I mean, when the 70s anime came out, Japanese tourism skyrocketed to Prince Edward Island because people wanted to see this like countryside utopia that Anne grew up in. And for all intents and purposes, from what I understand, it does not disappoint in that region, like the actual place. And also, I just love like Anne as a character. I think her being headstrong, self-assured, just drenching in imagination is such a breath of fresh air for like a protagonist, especially of being a girl and a young girl in that time period. Like, she is unabashedly herself. She always does what she wants to do, in that she lets her imagination run wild. She says whatever she wants to say to the, even if it flabbergasts Marilla or anything of that nature. But seeing her grow throughout the anime series was very enriching to watch her mature and learn to make sacrifices for the better of her adopted family and friends, even if it flies in the face of what she says she's always wanted, and she has to have a reckoning of what does she actually want. And she eventually, finds romance, but it's not with Gilbert, it's with a fucking wet rag. But but yeah, I just really, really love Anne of Green Gables as a grown 34-year-old man. It's just such a wonderful world to be in, and where the pacing of the first core is fast and the pacing of the second core is insanely fast. I wish I would have been fine if we got, and I don't think anime has ever really done this. Kestrel, you would probably know, or any of you guys really. If we just got 3 12-episode cores, like one for each book, I think that would have been more than enough to make it much more satisfying, because I don't think we need a repeat of the 1978 series where they spent 76 episodes on the first book. The first book is only 300 or so pages. That's an episode every 3 pages.
That's crazy.
And some of these pages in Anne of Green Gables, like, you have to think of the demographic of who this novel is for, and sometimes shit just doesn't fucking happen, man. Like, Anne wakes up, she's feeling under the weather, so she stays in bed all day and dreams of dancing amongst the clouds. End of chapter. Like,
damn,
nothing really happens, and that's part of the charm, but it's also, I don't need another episode just for that, where nothing else happens. So the pacing of like 12 episodes per book, I think, is pretty good. But yeah, unfortunately, the second core was the second 2 books in the series crammed into 12 episodes. So they really had to skip a lot of important shit to where you could barely remember people's names because they would just come and go. So,
yeah. I think the pacing was definitely an issue, but strangely enough, this show kind of helped rewire my brain when it was airing, where like my attention span was in like an all-time low for like the type of content I was like watching, and then it was like this show told me to like, all right, just like lay back and we're just going to do some nice like farmhand stuff for a little bit and everything's going to be chill. And it really kind of like, I struggled with the pacing at first, but then like once you get into the rhythm of the show, it's just like really beautiful to be a part of.
Yeah. Sit back, Anne's going to do some chores and then accidentally get her best friend drunk. Even though that's totally Marilla's fault. But I think the most interesting comment I'd seen about the pacing of the show is and I wouldn't have known this until I read the book either, to be absolutely, fair, is, Matthew's death is very quick in the anime. He just fucking keels over, essentially. I'm sure, Brand, you remember, he's there and then he's not.
Yeah.
The chapter in the book where Matthew dies is 6 pages. And that's it. It's just it's an incredibly realistic portrayal of death in that way, which is like he didn't fight disease for half the book. He just fucking had a heart attack when he saw their bank was going underwater and had a very realistic death. They mourned and then they had to move on because they ran a farm. Like they unfortunately didn't really have all the time in the world to really mourn, and then they had to find their own time and their own sort of private moments where Anne will go visit him at his grave, or Marilla will sit alone with a cup of tea while Anne is out tending to whatever she's doing. So in that way, it's a very realistic and somber look at the death of a loved one who at that point was almost certainly the most important person in Anne's life. He was the one who championed her being adopted at all. So yeah, it's just interesting that people thought there was more to that in the book, and there really isn't.
Yeah, I think just a quick comment on your pacing question. It is not strange for animes to do some weird episode counts to like fit the source material, because I know like JoJo's Part 4 was 39 episodes, and I think Part 5 similarly was like a 30-something episodes long. So it's not like it doesn't happen. I do think that there is just usually a regimen of 11 to 13 episodes-ish per core.
But that is exactly 3 cores, 39 episodes. So yeah, it's just how many
that's
TV
true.
seasons you want to take up.
Yeah. If they could have squeezed that out, that would have been great, but I can understand where they probably were lucky to get what they got for this adaptation that's wholly not anime. Like, it is definitely a show that you could show someone, be like, this is an anime, but it doesn't have anything in common with any anime that you really know. So, because it is a fucking 100-year-old novel. So, it's a Canadian novel.
Yeah. One more thing, just about you mentioning the beauty of like Prince Edward Islands and all that. I love the fact that even though the show isn't like, very crazily animated or anything, the backgrounds are just stunning. And I think they're very clearly inspired on like watercolor or like Impressionism era paintings, which very much in the times of that almost like Victorian kind of vibe they had going on. So yeah, one of my favorite shows to look at of the year for sure.
Yeah, it helps to add to Anne's like dreamlike imagination that she projects onto Prince Edward Island as well. Like it makes it feel like the way that she sees it. Like you're seeing it the way that she sees it after arriving from the orphanage. So yeah, but that's my number 5. Similar, like I said, to Apocalypse Hotel, not Apocalypse, but City of the Animation. It would be higher, except for like a glaring thing that I just couldn't ignore for the sanctity of the rest of the list.
Right, and that leaves Mark.
Yeah, so I don't have as many honorable mentions as you guys. My list is very much kind of in 2 tiers. Well, I guess everybody's is in 2 tiers, but where I have a handful that I loved, and then a handful that I thought were pretty good. And there's a pretty big gulf between those. So not quite as many honorable mentions for you guys, but so starting with number 9, Rascal Does Not Dream of Santa Claus, which kind of like what you were saying there, Cain, about Anne Shirley and City. It was a series I really liked. My problem with it, the reason why it's a little bit lower, because it would probably be higher if it wasn't for this, is that with the entire Rascal series, it kind of felt a little superfluous. Like, to me, it's the Rascal series feels like it kind of ended with Knapsack Kid. Rascal Does Not Dream with Knapsack Kid. It was like we figured everything out, and then, oh wait, no, we didn't. Now here's more here. So it was just sort of I loved the series anyway, but I couldn't shake that feeling as I was watching it, that I was like, I feel like this is over though, that we've taken care of everything. So Then my next few are kind of interchangeable. My awkward senpai, I'll go ahead and put in at number 8. Then followed by Catch Me at the Ballpark at number 7, Ruri Rocks at number 6. And I'm just going to go ahead and mention my number 5 now, A Mangaka's Weirdly Wonderful Workplace, which I would put it a little bit higher than those other 3. They're all kind of in sort of the same. I'm a big rom-com guy. I'm a big slice of life guy, and they're all kind of slice of lifey rom-com sort of things. And they were all, I thought, really good, sort of for what they did. The reason why I'm going to go ahead and put Mangaka's Weirdly Wonderful Workplace a bit higher than the other ones, though, is I thought that one did some really interesting stuff with characters. So some really interesting character work in there. Where the main character in that Futami, she is a new mangaka who is has a lot of anxieties and everything that anytime any little thing happens, she just completely dissolves into a pile of goo. And so sort of everybody around her is kind of there to kind of prop her up. And you never thought that anxiety could be so adorable, except that it was. But everybody in the show is kind of presented as, again, kind of being there to help prop her up. But what I thought was really interesting was that, for a 12 episode series in particular, they kind of gave everybody a little bit of opportunity to sort of show that they have a bit more to them than just like, well, I'm here to make sure that she gets her job done. And even sort of as we went later on in the series, like it kind of left her with Futami with a need, if you will, to be the strong person. So you get this little flipping of the script here where all these other people who are initially presented as strong, it's like, okay, now we're going to show you the chinks in their armor, and Futami has to be there for them in much the same way that they are there for her. And it was much stronger character work than I often see in a series like this, but B, particularly in a series kind of as short as this, because I don't really expect it to be the sort of series to get a second season. Like I feel like the manga is still going on. It's been going on for 6 years and it's still going on, and maybe they'll surprise with a second season. I would certainly watch a second season. I just don't feel like there will be a second season. And so I thought they did a really good job of packing a lot into it to make it just feel a little bit more, I don't know, important than a lot of the stuff that we get in these genres. So that is my number 5.
Nice. Yeah, I want to check out that baseball one someday because I'm a sucker for baseball shit too, even if it's only tangentially related. So.
If it's not even really, it's not a baseball anime. It's about it's about a girl who is a beer vendor at a baseball park. But it's super cute and it's a lot of fun. And that was in the spring season, and it was definitely a comfort watch every week for me.
You bait Cain with the baseball, and then he realizes he actually signed up for a romance.
I mean, there's beer in there too, and that works.
There's beer. There's actually, unfortunately, no romance in there. So no real. Well, they actually do kind of bait you with it. There is a character that it makes it seem like, oh, this is going to be the thing. And again, maybe if you read the manga, it's something that happens, but it doesn't they don't even really hint at it. So, spoiler alert.
I think we have spoiled a fair amount in this episode already, given the discussions of characters' deaths.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so between our number 5s and number 4s, I'll start reading some of the lists that I got from my friends. A lot of them sent in top 10s, but I'll just keep it to top 5s for brevity and consistency. So yeah, from Derek. Number 5, My Dress Up Darling Season 2. Number 4, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba Infinity Castle. Number 3, Gachiakuta. Number 2, Dawn to Dawn Second Season. Number 1, Chainsaw Man the Movie Reze Arc. And from Andrew, number 5, Windbreaker Season 2. Number 4, Grand Blue Season 2. Number 3, Dawn to Dawn Season 2. Number 2, Chainsaw Man the Movie Reze Arc. And number 1, My Dress Up Darling Season 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so then we can move on to our top 4s if you want to start that, Brett.
Yeah. At my number 4, I have Taco P's Original Sin. This show falls into like a category of media that only like a dozen or so things really usually end up there, but one of those things that I truly love, but I'd be hard pressed to watch again, kind of thing. Like I think of movies like Hereditary, like brilliant film, but I was so stressed out watching it that I don't know if I could do it again. And I mean, I know like on first watch, maybe it's gonna be a little bit more stressful than a rewatch, but it's still this show. Just about every episode of Taco P is very hard to watch, and there's definitely going to be certain subjects that are worthy of trigger warnings for many different kinds of things. So this is one of those shows that I recommend highly with an asterisk. You know, it's very beautiful and haunting at the same time, and it does its best to kind of balance the like horrible small town psychosis of just like terrible familial relations going on, and the innocent like literally otherworldly lens of Taco P's presence in the whole thing. Yeah, just a very surreal show, very heavy watch, but just like so beautiful in its approach and in a lot of its messaging. And a lot of the messaging too does kind of like fall through the cracks a bit, where there's definitely lessons to be made for each character, but it's not like everyone really comes out on top in the end, or like not everyone really learns a lesson per se, but just kind of learns to deal with the circumstances of life that they are dealt, you know? And that's something I really appreciate from the original creator, Taizan 5. I think they're really good at those kind of stories. And although I had heard about Taco P a few years before the anime came out, the first time I actually read one of their stories was the Ichinose family's Deadly Sins or something. It ran in Shonen Jump for like 30, 40, 50 chapters. Similar in a lot of ways, but the one thing I wanted to mainly comment about is that the anime really, really captured Taizan 5's art style like immaculately. And I think maybe my favorite aspect is they really often like going to this almost like fisheye lens perspective of like characters looking at something together or like doing a walk cycle together. And the anime pulled that card out several times and looked exactly how I imagined it would look when I was reading the author's manga. So I think in terms of adaptation, this one knocks it out of the park. And it is just like, OVA style 6 episodes. So it's a lot easier to make it look that higher, almost movie level quality, but I'm not gonna like shunt it for that. It was just like such a very compelling and beautiful show to watch from beginning to end. So yeah, highly recommend if you can stomach some of this subject matter.
Yeah, I think it probably would have been in my top 5 if it weren't for the fact that the ending didn't quite hit that hard for me, because it just kind of felt like it wanted to have a happy ending, but there was no way with the dark realism of that story that you could really accomplish one and sell it. And so it just kind of, fizzles out a little bit and just goes like, yeah, life goes on. Which, is probably the only way it could have ended, but it's just a lot less impactful than most of the series had been. So just in that respect, it dropped a little bit on my list at the end.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think just based off of what I have read from the author, that is something that they had issues with Ichinose family as well, where they kind of dig themselves into a hole with some of the plot lines or like how far they go, where it's like, whoa, how do you come back from here if you're really trying to like pull off a happy ending of some sorts? So yeah, they've definitely fallen into that trap before. But yeah, worth a watch. And I will also recommend, the author had a one-shot in Shonen Jump called Fighting Girls, I think. And I'm just mentioning it now because I might use it as another reference of a comparison for something later.
I sure know what that will be.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my number 4 pick.
All right.
My number 4 pick P.
P.
Number 4 P.
My number 4. Like Bran, I pretty much have just like really beautifully animated stuff in my top 5, pretty much my whole list. And number 4, certainly an example of that, the Golden Globe nominee and loser, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle. Yeah, so we've also been talking about this one almost every episode, despite the fact that it's a single movie released months ago, because every time we record, it has broken more box office records or been nominated for a Golden Globe. Maybe next episode it'll be nominated for an Oscar. Probably not. But yeah, this movie probably could have been called One Battle After Another, but that title was already taken this year. But that's pretty much what it is. It's Demon Slayer in its optimal presentation to showcase the scope of the setting that I've always found fascinating, the Infinity Castle, especially how Ufotable renders it. And they just released like a 10-minute video, like going into the animation production and how they made the Infinity Castle work. And one of the comments, the guy was like, yeah, it said it was going to take like 10 years to render. So yeah, extremely complex visuals. And yeah, the setting, the intensity of the action, the grandeur of just the visuals overall are kind of in their best form in this format. And Demon Slayer, of course, has always kind of had that high standard of production quality for a TV anime, such that there's maybe not as much room to benefit from a theatrical production. But that sense of scale and immersion is as captivating as you want it to be, and it really adds to the experience. It's all just immaculately produced. Again, that video that they released, I would definitely check that out to appreciate just how much manual work went into it and how good Ufotable is at compositing with the 2D and 3D elements, and how much 3D is used, and yet it's still pretty much, hand-drawn keyframes on paper. Every single frame, it's just merged together so beautifully. So yeah, it's what we've gotten from Demon Slayer basically every year since 2019, but just elevated by the scope of its plot and battles and stakes. And when you watch it in the theater, you really get that. Mark, you want to do your number 4?
Sure. So now we're moving into the ones that I truly love this season. So my number 4 is Grand Blue Dreaming season 2, which Cain mentioned before. I actually liked this season better than season 1. I thought that it did, despite the lack of amazing facial visuals. I thought one of the things that that this season really got into, and you sort of see it kind of coming along at the end of the first season, but is a really nice punctuation of the craziness that goes on there with some real moments of heart. Um, like I enjoy quack experimental anime as much as anybody, but I thought what really kind of knocked it out of the park was these random moments in it when um, the and literally it's just moments, but like when the craziness would stop for a second and they were kind of real with each other. Yori supporting Kohei at the party when Sakurako steals his invitation to the concert, and and then later on being supportive of Sakurako when she gets turned down. A lot of the stuff that he has going on between him and Chisa, we just have these like little moments where you're kind of brought up short a little bit because the craziness kind of stops for a second and you go, oh, hey, these are actually some pretty cool people. And I think they do a really great job in this season of balancing the two of them in such a way that when they do stop, the craziness kind of punctuates the seriousness, and the seriousness makes the craziness just all the funnier, because you have these kind of dichotomies between the two, and I think they just spur each of them on so much better. And so, yeah, as I said, I like this season a little bit better than the first one, but that's not a slight on the first one at all. So yeah, that came in at number 4 for me.
Yeah, and you bring up some definite good points there that I would agree with. That there felt like there was more character development. You got to see a little bit more of their like human side and less caricature side,
Yeah.
which can add to the humor. And I think that's definitely a good point to make. And getting introduced to the younger sister character added a lot of like interesting family dynamics that you weren't really aware of with Iori and stuff at that point. So you got a little bit of background without feeling like you just got exposition dumped or anything like that. So yeah, I think that's a solid point that you got to see little glimpses every once in a while of like some real friendship underneath the just like drinking, partying, and then swearing eternal violence against each other for other things. Like there are actual bonds forming between some of them, at least. I think others you just see, nope, this is all their relationship is.
Right.
Which can be refreshing in that way too, where it's not trying to also force where they don't really belong. So
yeah. So some weird moments of reasonableness between them as well that I think, like I always think of the is it in the last episode? It's definitely near the end when they're on the island and Iori goes back to the tent and Chisa is changing, and so he sees her with her shirt off and she gets all pissed off at him and chases him around for a while, and then he's like, but you see me naked all the time, and she's like, oh yeah, I guess I do, okay.
Yeah, a surreal logic that only makes sense in their universe.
Exactly, right.
But at least it follows the rules for their universe, so to speak.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff.
You want to move
Just
on
have
to
read
your...
the manga.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. One last comment. I will say, as an avid reader of the manga, and I should have expected this because obviously anime is different than manga. Some of the manga panels, Kestrel, you were talking about the beauty of Demon Slayer there. Like some of the manga panels, particularly when they are scuba diving, are so beautiful.
100%.
just absolutely amazing. And I remember when I was sitting down to watch the anime for the first time, that's what I was really among everything else, I was really looking forward to seeing that rendered as a scuba diver myself. Like I wanted to really see this, and it just doesn't come through quite as well in the anime, but you kind of expect that, like that, for it to come out as well as it does in the manga, like that would be some insane production values.
I mean, it's also like, it's funny, Cain had mentioned in his honorable mentions, like, City of the Animation, he loves everything about it visually, but not all of the humor worked for him. And with Grand Blue, all of the humor worked for him. And I would say that they are kind of opposite adaptations in that Grand Blue is one of the most gorgeously drawn manga series I've seen, and the anime looks kind of rough most of the time.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
It certainly could have been better, but yeah, no, it's still hilarious. So
yeah,
whatever. All right, and Cain, you're number 4.
Righto. So my number 4, which I wholly expect to be on other people's lists, maybe higher up, is Apothecary Diaries Season 2. What's also funny is, for as much as I had to say about Anne Shirley, I don't have a ton to say other than, like, the first half of the second season, I don't think I gelled with quite as much, but when the kidnapping stuff starts and we get a little bit more of seeing that rebellion start, Jinshi becoming kind of a main character, like the protagonist for a while, and we get that sort of flipping of the script. I really like that stuff, even if I think it took a little too long for it to get going once she was kidnapped and stuff. But I'm just I always like the palace intrigue, how Mao Mao as a character. I always liken her to a pharmacist version of like Jackie Chan in every movie that he's ever been in that she doesn't want any trouble, but yet she always gets trouble. She says out loud, at least to herself, like her inner monologue over and over again, like, I shouldn't investigate this, I really don't care. And then lo and behold, like 2 minutes later, she's elbow deep in whatever it is the hell that's going on, because she can't help herself, especially if there is even the faintest chance that she could get something like poisonous at the end of the road here. So I think Mao Mao is a really fun character. I like Jinshi a lot too. I think he has and you learn a lot more about him in this season too, which I think helps, because he has an air of mystery about him, of who he is and how is he where he's at in terms of his job in the palace, while being as competent and knowledgeable as he is as well. And then you learn kind of a lot about his secrets and who he is and why he has to disguise himself when he goes out and travels. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Emily likes it a lot as well. So, I also rank my list based off of how much I look forward to watching episodes of a certain show every week. And Apothecary Diaries is always up there as like as close as you can get in the modern era to scheduled TV viewing, so to speak, where you like, the Apothecary Diaries episode comes out today and Emily and I are going to watch it at dinner time, which I can't say about many anime that I just kind of watch whenever I get around to it. So I think that's about as glowing of a thing as I can give, and that's in common with all the other shows on the rest of my list. They were all shows that I actively looked forward to watching. But Apothecary Diaries was really good, and I look forward to how that's going to play out, especially now that we're starting to get a little more, I don't even know if you want to call it like romance between them, but like Jinshi is approaching it much more in a serious manner than just kind of being a half playful creep on her. Like, I think he actually has feelings for her and for Mao Mao and everything. And I'm interested to see how she handles it, because you still don't really know how she feels about really anything in that realm. Like, if she does at all. I don't know how the story unfolds. I don't know if maybe she's like aromantic, asexual, anything like that. So I am interested to see how that plays out too, because it's a setting that's ripe for like romances to be had and everything, and she's kind of rejected it at every turn as best as she possibly can. So I feel like Jinchi's only going to push that envelope even more until something happens one way or the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, number 4 for me was Apothecary Diaries Season 2.
Nice. All right. I'll read some more top 5s here. From Epica, number 5, Zenshu. Number 4, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle. Number 3, The Summer Hikaru Died. Number 2, To Be Hero X. And number 1, Orb on the Movements of the Earth, which spanned end of 2024 to beginning of 2025, so I'll allow it. Then from Horb, number 5, Zatsutabi, That's Journey. Number 4, Medalist. Number 3, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. Number 2, Welcome to Japan, Ms. Elf. And number 1, I think this also started in 2024, Blue Box.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I let people kind of make their own rules of what counts.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, so then we can move on to our number 3s.
Top 3.
Yeah, and Fran mentioned something about aura with regard to Yaiba. Boy, you want aura? I got all the aura you can take. It's solo leveling, season 2, Arise from the Shadow.
True. Yo, he mogs Yaiba. It's true.
Yeah.
Jinwoo mogs for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, even more than Demon Slayer, this was perhaps the most watchable and entertaining anime I saw this year. The structure of the series is inherently built on incremental progress that becomes exponential progress. And that's a successful strategy because it always feels rewarding. Like, yeah, there are literal video game screens in front of this guy, but it has the same appeal and effect on, your endorphins that leveling up in a video game do. And that's why I think it's so successful and so enjoyable, even if you understand that it's not the deepest. But in this season, the stakes are higher than ever. The world finally expands to an international view. We get to know many new characters, including like the best of the best. And since Jinwoo's secret is no longer a secret, it allows him to finally engage with those characters and be present on a public stage. And then it kind of all builds to this climactic arc. I'm just going to call it the Chimera Ant arc. And it is kind of, the ultimate showcase for just the insane dynamism of the action in the series. It's animation, visual effects, absolutely on the level of any feature film. Every episode, pretty much. And Hiroyuki Sawano and his always sweeping scores. This is one of the only series in recent years that he has composed entirely by himself, not with Kota Yamamoto. And yeah, there's a lot into it. So that's my number 3.
We talked about it back and forth quite a bit when it was airing, that not the biggest fan of the show, but I would be completely deaf to admit that it was just like some peak fight animation for sure for a lot of it. Like that show does look amazing most of the time. It's one of those shows that makes you jealous, or like you wish your favorite shows had an adaptation like that.
Why did Berserk 2016 turn out like that when it could have been this?
Me watching One Punch Man season 3 every week.
I mean, One Punch Man season 3 is that much worse because One Punch Man season 1 got this treatment.
Yeah, for real.
But I'm sure that's number 1 on your list, so we'll save that discussion.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right, on to your number 3.
Yeah, speaking of my list, this one landed on my list, crossing the finish line right at the end, right at the last second, because literally I couldn't watch it until December 31st, and I technically watched it January 1st, but that's going to be 100 meters. This one, I feel like before we get into that, there were a lot of things I wanted to watch this year that because I don't live in the land of milk and honey, the beautiful golden state of California, I can't watch 3 months or 4 months in advance. So yeah, I had to be a pleb and wait for it to hit Netflix. And boy howdy, am I glad I managed to crush it right before we had the list making coming up, because if you know what it means to call a movie like Oscar bait, this movie is Brandon bait for like 100%. I'm a sucker for sports dramas, and this one just like hit it out of the park, because it's everything I want a sports drama to be, which is that the sport is nothing but a vehicle to just tell a story about humans, and it does that impeccably. I think the biggest highlight for me is, one, Kenji Iwasawa knocking it out of the park again. As Kestrel mentioned earlier, his debut film Ongaku, love that movie to pieces. It's such a silly, almost like Napoleon Dynamite-esque humor, just kind of like very dry and like stupid, but there are just moments where the rotoscoping animation kicks in, and it's like nothing you've ever seen before. And I know a lot of people were hyping up a lot of the scenes from 100 meters, and to all those people, I would beg you to go watch Ongaku as well. But yeah, and this is literally like to me, just such a like dynamic duo of like promising artists in their, I wouldn't say it's their creative peak because it's still so early for them, but like they're in their stride, because there's Iwasawa directing, and then the original creator Uoto, who just did Orb last year, and that is the one show from 2024 that was my like biggest like why didn't I watch this while it aired feeling, and I will commit to hopefully getting through it this year. But yeah, I mean, the writing was impeccable as well. Just like a very grounded story of mainly two guys competing, but there are several other characters that like make it as they get further into track. Like you'll start seeing some other like highlights or competitors, I should say, that similar to a show like Ping Pong the Animation, they all have their own stakes that they are fighting against. They all have their own vision of what it means to be a runner and what they do it for. And that's what I'm all about, baby. I'm all about just people pushing themselves to the brink to find out like what makes them tick and like what their life is about. And this one does that immaculately, and I loved it. And as Kester mentioned earlier, and I just mentioned, like, it gives me notes of Ping Pong. It gives me notes of Look Back. It gives me notes of Fighting Girls from Taizan 5. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just this is the kind of thing that is the formula to get me to love what you like create. And yeah, it was easy top 3 for me, and it was a tough customer putting it between 2 and 3, but like as you'll see, that's also a very high profile movie. So yeah, I love this movie, and I can't wait to rewatch it, honestly.
Yeah, my only comment was A, I need to watch this as well, and B, especially knowing that there's rotoscoping in it, because I'm an unabashed fan of rotoscoping, whether it's good or bad. I just like it.
Yeah, no, rotoscoping I feel like has become a huge creative tool in animation, specifically this last year. I think with stuff like Smiling Friends gaining popularity, and even like Haha You Clowns, a lot of like Adult Swim animations that are like kind of taking the like a stride in little clips of rotoscoping that just adds so much to the humor. I think this, in the opposite manner, uses rotoscoping to just like show you the dynamic of running in the most humanly accurate way that they can. And it really does help with the weight of the story and the characters, that they are literally the weight they are pulling to make it across the finish line. But yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out whether this was more brand bait or Cain bait, but that extra comment about loving rotoscoping, it might be a Cain even more.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I've even liked stuff like what's it called, the Flower of Evil, which
Flower of
used a
Evil, yeah.
shitload of rotoscoping.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, it
people
was all
generally
rotoscope.
hated.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but I was like,
I
this
just saw
fucking rules.
Hiroshima Bahama this past weekend, so he had a lot to say about the production of that show.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, even though it wasn't super great for any other reason. But still love rotoscoping and any attempts that shows make to be creative in how they portray stuff. So just doing that, or things like stop motion animation and stuff, I'm always a fan of trying to make your show into mixed media. So
Right.
Yeah, and the thing that specifically 100 meters and his previous directorial one, Angaku, that are impressive is that he takes a lot of the full rotoscope scenes on himself to just like pound out like hundreds and thousands of panels for. And yeah, I definitely recommend the funny thing is the difference of 100 meters is going for a much more realistic style. So the transition between the rotoscoping and the regular stuff isn't as jarring. Whereas in Angaku, they are the most like plain, like comic book kind of character designs. And then there will be a scene where they're just like playing instruments in the most like insanely detailed way you've ever seen, like swinging their hair around and stuff. It's a sight to behold.
Yeah, when I saw 100 meters, it was at a Q&A with Iwasawa there, and
Nice.
The interviewer asked him, like, why did you use so much rotoscoping? And his answer was, I don't know how to make a movie any other way.
Hey man, yeah, you gotta work to your strengths. That's how he got across the finish line.
Exactly. Cool. All right, and then Mark and Cain have the same number 3, so you can talk about that in whatever order you'd like.
Mark, if you would like to open up with the salvo against Kestrel, that's fine by me.
It wasn't on Brand's list at all.
That is very true. Yeah. No. So our number 3 is The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. And which is funny because you and I traded some barbs that we had some problems with what the other had higher on this, and yet we both ended it up with it at number 3. So we can talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, so I already talked about Rascal earlier. I actually have all 3. Spoiler alert: all 3 of the Cloverworks Trinity from the summer season on my list. And with this being the second one, and again, this is another one. I'm an avid follower of the manga, so I was really, really looking forward to the anime when it came out, and I think that Cloverworks just knocked this out of the park. The animation is gorgeous. I think they framed the season kind of perfectly. We talked about it a little bit when we covered it a couple podcasts ago, but we deal with in this season essentially the entire kind of I was going to say courtship, but it's not really courtship because they don't get married. But basically, everything leading up to the confession, it does sort of end on the confession, and which provides a nice punctuation to what this season covered, but also a nice little leaping point off for what I assume there will be at least a second season for this. It's popular enough; it feels like that's kind of inevitable. It is an anime that is relentlessly nice. And so it's super feel good, and every the what I really appreciate about it, which we're kind of starting to see sort of happen more and more with some things, but this one does it so well, is that it doesn't really let things linger when problems crop up. They sit down, they talk it out, and they move on with things, and don't unnecessarily draw things out for the sake of drama, which is really nice. And in a lot of ways kind of increases the drama because it feels a lot more realistic than a lot of shows of this type. And then Rintaro and Kaoruko are just great main characters. You can't help but root for them. It's just a wonderful series from start to finish. Cain.
Yep. Agree 100%. Super good point, and something that I mention ad nauseum when it comes to shows like this or Skip and Loafer is that I love communication for these types of shows, where it's like you can have drama and then you can have the people involved in the drama, solve it like people and not artificially increasing it because everybody refuses to speak even one word to each other, would rather have their friends tell them what other people say or misinterpret, anything like that is just not something that I particularly enjoy. And this show is very good at pursuing the compassionate responses to things, and characters trying their best to learn the perspective of the people that have problems with them or the problems they have at hand. Or in the case of Rintaro, sometimes when he isn't getting it, his mom or his dad, which another big plus, both mom and dad, huge plus for me. Like both parents around, neither of them deadbeats.
Nobody working on the other side of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the mom steps in on a few occasions to help him out when he's stuck, so he doesn't just box himself up in his room and, lets himself sulk for too long. She steps in and helps him out, and then says a pithy little thing at the end about how her son is kind of dumb, but in that cute teenage boy kind of way. And it just feels like, I don't know, a quintessential way that you would hope all of these types of problems would be solved, even if I do occasionally have an issue with the melodrama behind, like, why the two schools hate each other. Like, we don't know, but I feel like no reason could be good enough to be, like, the way that they treat each other for no goddamn reason at all. But, I can overlook that pretty easily, especially once all the friend group kind of starts coming together and unsuspectingly, in a way, think of each other as friends, even if they didn't officially recognize that they're friends. And that's kind of what, like, Rintaro's group was like. He's like, oh, I thought we were friends because we're hanging out, aren't we? And that's what friends do. And then, that's it. So I think one thing I wanted to add, and then other than that, I think, Mark, you've summed it up really nicely, is I also love the way that the season ended with a sort of like role reversal, like gender bend kind of thing, where you learn that Kaoruko was the one that was like pursuing him by going to the bakery every day to talk to him. Normally, at least in a Western rom-com, that is definitely the other way around. It's the dude that's doing the pursuing and the romantic, kind of forwards, shy or otherwise. But this one, Kaoruko, even though she, she isn't successful at first, and she doesn't have a lot of, she's shy and she doesn't know how to talk to him. She goes to the store, the bakery, to try to see him, which is an incredibly romantic gesture that you just don't see all of the time, play out that way. And I thought that was a really unique and refreshing take on the sort of rom-com genre, because you're fully expecting Rintaro to be the one that does that, and it was the other way around the whole time, and he just either never noticed or at certain points knew but didn't want to see her because he was embarrassed about something he said or whatever. So
and I think one of the things that makes that really jump out is that this is a story that's otherwise pretty much told from his perspective. So as you said, you're really expecting he's the one doing the chasing, he's the one doing all the worrying and all that sort of thing, and then she comes up with, actually, no, I knew you like a year before. I just,
Yeah,
So.
I didn't know how to approach you, so I just kind of went to your store and fucking ate cake all the time, hoping you would notice.
Yeah.
Kestrel. Yeah, what?
Yeah, I think that that aspect is what made it such a perfect ending for the season because, yeah, you have one of them doing the confessing, and that's the one, like you just said, who you've been seeing the perspective of, you've been seeing his feelings develop, and then to have that twist to turn it around, saying that, yes, I've been in love with you for this whole time, even more so, is just a really beautiful affirmation of their mutual feelings. And, you can never think that it's like an imbalanced relationship because they were both independently pursuing each other and had feelings for each other without being able to express it. So, yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, agreed.
In my defense, it did not make my list because I didn't watch it. So, going off like Schrodinger's box rules, if I did watch it, it could be higher than Kestrel. We don't know that, though.
I suppose
that almost feels worse, though. That almost feels worse.
I mean, it is worse, but I suppose it's fair that Schrodinger's brand also put Fragrant Flower at number 3.
Yeah. The way he phrased it's like, if I decided to waste my time on a show.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You got me.
I'll take the win. Okay, those are number 3s. Let's get some more contributed lists in here. I'll do 3 this time. So from Denko, number 5, Sonda. Number 4, The Summer Hikaru Died. Number 3, City the Animation. Number 2, Chainsaw Man, the movie Rose Arc. Number 1, Apocalypse Hotel.
Okay, we got some based taste up in here.
From Cipriana, number 5, Flower and Ashura. Number 4, My Dress Up Darling Season 2. Number 3, City the Animation. Number 2, Mentalist. Number 1, Silent Witch. And from Henry, number 5, Bang Dream Ave Musica. Number 4, Grand Blue Season 2. Number 3, To Be Hero X. Number 2, Silent Witch. And number 1, Mentalist.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we can move on to our number 2s, starting with Mark.
Yeah, okay. So my number 2 is one that hasn't been mentioned at all tonight yet. Amaku MD, Doctor Detective from the winter season. This is the one that Cain is so angry that I put it above Frankfurt Flower, Blooms with Dignity. I actually don't know if I forget who said it before, but it being a season that's hard to rank because there's so many different things out there, and I'm sort of in that boat a little bit with this one. I don't know that I like it any better than Fragrant Flower. I certainly don't like it any worse than Fragrant Flower, but the reason why I put it ahead of it is that it's just a very different anime. It's not something that you see very often, if at all, in the medium, because it's a mystery procedural, a murder mystery procedural, basically. She is Dr. Amaku is a genius doctor, who, like, so genius that mundane, like, life just basically bores her. Just day-to-day living basically bores her because she works on such a level so much higher than everybody else, And but what she really gets interested in is when cases come into the hospital that she works in that are interesting, where different things sort of happen. So, for example, in the very first episode, the first two episodes are a two-parter, and in the very first episode, there's a guy who is brought into the emergency room, who is missing half of a leg. There is a large chunk taken out of his side that looks like a bite has that he's been bitten. And he dies on the table before they can do anything. And when they try to draw up some blood for to run some tests and see what was going on with him, his blood comes out blue. Um, and so, like, she sees all this and she's like, okay, I have to know what the hell happened here. And that's kind of what this is. And she's sort of your sort of typical kind of eccentric main character, where she just sort of hyper focuses on this stuff. And as I said, like, I really liked it because this is an adaptation of a novel series, and I really liked it because it's just something you don't really see a whole lot in anime, and I thought it was really well done. She has an assistant who's got the nickname Kotori, who's kind of like her Watson. And I appreciated it doubly because, well, here you go. You've got a cute young doctor who's brilliant and her handsome young assistant, who's with her all the time. And there's not even a single moment in the series that suggests there's anything romantic going on between the two of them. Like they are very close. There's a very deep friendship between the two of them and a very deep respect between the two of them, but there's no hint whatsoever that could ever take that next step, which made, like again, for something a little bit different than what we normally see. And it was just really, really fascinating, and I thought it did like a really, really good job of building mysteries where I, as not a medical doctor, could follow along. I could come up with guesses, and I generally did a pretty good job of being like, okay, this is what I think happened, and sort of generally getting into the right ballpark with just sort of my normal mundane knowledge of medicine. And then letting her bring it home, and kind of getting into the right place, and then letting her bring it home with all of the really super technical stuff that then sort of shows her genius. And from everything that I understand, I've read some stuff, I've seen some stuff. Everything that happens in the series is plausible. Like there's nothing in there that's just kind of like the writer just making stuff up. It's like, no, this is actually everything that's going on in here is based on true science, and could absolutely happen the way that it plays out in this. And I just, if there were any problems with it, it was the anime from the winter season that had the cursed schedule. It seemed like every other episode got delayed, and so we were a healthy part into the spring season before it actually got wrapped up. And and then the Blu-ray set in Japan ended up getting delayed as well. So production was obviously a problem with it, but no, I thought it was really brilliant. It was a lot of fun, and I appreciated it for just how different it was.
As someone who was never a big like hospital procedural kind of guy, but who has recently started getting watching Grey's Anatomy, I am definitely interested in maybe picking this up at some point.
So the memes for this when it came out was that it was they turned Dr. House and turned him into a cute anime girl.
Okay.
And it clearly knew that because it made a lupus joke in the first 5 minutes of this. It was like, well, it's not lupus. And I was like, okay,
funny.
you know what you're doing.
That's good.
But I recommend it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, this was definitely one that I was hot or cold on as I was watching it through the season. It had some good episodes. I didn't hate it, to be clear. It just it didn't do a ton for me. The house thing is definitely on point, and I think that was both a positive and a negative. Because I don't think her character had nearly like the charisma that House does that makes him compelling. But then there were some really good episodes that I enjoyed, like the one with the young boy in the baseball cap, if I recall, that she visits him to read the story, and she can't deal with the fact that he is unsavable.
Right.
So it causes her to really question like all of her knowledge and her education and everything, because she couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. She thought she had cured him at one point. But then I think he had some type of cancer that came back or something.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that was it for him, and it really like shook her to the core in a way that nothing else had, because she's normally she gets everything all the time. Like this is, for it to happen is one thing, but for it to happen to this like young kid who is so full of life and everything obviously affects you in a much deeper way. So they had some good stuff in there. The poor assistant guy gets his this is the shittiest part. He gets his fucking Mazda RX-8 exploded.
Oh no.
Yeah. He loved that car, and I think the Mazda RX-8 is one of the coolest cars ever made, even if they all break down after 50,000 miles. But his just gets bombed straight up. So that was an interesting one. But yeah, not a bad series. So I don't hate it, but yeah, I do think it is a crime to put it above Fragrant Flower, and you should be tried in The Hague for it. And I want that to be officially my statement.
Fair.
Wow.
Fair. But I will say, in my defense, at least I've watched Fragrant Flower, unlike some people around.
Whoa,
got it.
Damn. I said I wanted to watch this one. Shit. I'm catching strays this time.
Catching strays.
That bit about the Mazda thing reminded me of the principal from GTO every time
I had the exact same
destroyed.
thought.
I was like, "My Cresta!" Exactly. Oh, it's good.
All right, Cain, what is it not a crime to put above Fragrant Flower?
That, my friend, is Dawn to Dawn Season 2. So that is, I think, let me double check. I know I only have one more left. This is my most shonen-y on the list, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have like a ton to say about this, other than I love how absolutely crazy Go Nuts Dawn to Dawn is, and it doesn't apologize for it. And in fact, it has pushed the pedal to the metal and proceeds to push it then through the floor. And I really love every minute of it. They're fighting fucking composer ghosts in a music dungeon, and then clearly a Godzilla stand-in, and then
due to international copyright laws, it's not Godzilla.
Yeah, it's a stand-in. It's a legally distinct dinosaur entity.
Yes, indeed.
And then
Goshzilla.
Yeah, and then they have combat against Jai Halud. So I just absolutely love how it has no boundaries in terms of what they're gonna fight next. You cannot predict anything about how that goes, while also having some budding romance of its own, and some will they won't they stuff that it's not afraid also to, and this has been true of the show the whole time, but like in a positive way, tonally whiplash you with like some heartfelt moments, followed by, oh, here comes a kickball going at light speed, like with Evil Eye especially. And I love that they tame Evil Eye by just beating his ass, and then making it so they promise that he can have his fight at some time, whenever, as long as he doesn't do anything else bad. Like, it's just such an enjoyable like romp for the most part, like seeing these characters kind of develop their friendships, um get stronger, and sometimes in like training and other ways, just I think grow throughout the show, and then the boss characters just becoming ever more ridiculous by the minute in that escalation, and the Exorcist band that got in some trouble for ripping off, what was it, Japan X?
Yeah,
X Japan. But not really ripping off, just not doing the proper social thanking for the song and stuff. Like,
yeah, it's just an homage.
Yeah, just an homage that they got a little heat for not reaching out to X Japan first before doing it. So like, I love the unpredictability, and it can have some amazing animation too at any given moment for some of these fights as well. And that was the key factor for me wanting to like watch it every week when it came out too, is as opposed to any other show on this list for the most part, and probably previous lists, like I could sit down and you could put on an episode of Dawn to Dawn and I could not tell you what the fuck is gonna happen in these next 20 minutes. So yeah, that's in a, like pretty much the bottom line as to why it was there. Great animation, can't predict what's going on in the best ways, a good tonal mix of really heartfelt content mixed with fighting legally distinct giant dinosaur copies. So
I can assure you, as someone who is caught up on the manga, that whenever the next season comes out, it will be just as batshit insane, just as incomprehensible, just as loud, just as much international copyright bending. And yeah, you're gonna continue to love it.
Yeah, Emily's reading the manga right now, and I'm most excited that the like alien crab guy seems to get a little more spotlight, at least eventually.
Yeah.
So
he's a homie.
Yeah, he's a real one. So I'm excited to see how he kind of refolds back into the group, considering I think he works at a dairy farm or something.
Yeah, but his kid needs that milk, bro.
Yeah, he needs that. Get that boy some milk. So yeah, that is my number 2.
Right. And
cool.
This time we have the same number 2, me and Bran.
Yes.
And we'll move on from one Kensuke Ushio soundtrack to another.
Yeah. Well,
and that is Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze arc. Do you want to go first on this one?
Sure. I was trying to come up with like what the joke was. I looked it up, and I did not know that it was actually originally a Cat Williams quote from a comedy special, but it reminded me of the line, his Chrysler 300 looks like a phantom until a real phantom pulls up. And that's what I thought about when I think about the Chainsaw Man anime and then the Chainsaw Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, before I get flamed for that, I was an avid defender of the cinematic art design of the TV show, and I know a lot of people just hated it. It was like a big point of contention when the TV show was airing, that people didn't like the pacing or the energy or the coloring or the compositing. They were just like looked at every fault they could, or even like the 3D animation. People like looked for every fault they could with the TV anime. And I generally think it looked great, and I loved the first season. And then I sat my ass down in a movie theater and I watched this film, and I was like, oh wait, this is exactly what Chainsaw Man is supposed to look like in animation. And yeah, it was basically perfect. It's hard for me as like just like a huge fan, especially of this arc, to like have wanted it to go any other way. It just looked phenomenal, sounded phenomenal, insane score, like great pacing. Just like making this a movie was like the perfect decision. And yeah, I couldn't be happier It was hard for me not to put 100 meters over this because I love I love that it's like a more original film. I wanted to kind of be like, oh, am I really going to put like the big shonen action movie of the year that isn't Demon Slayer up on my number 2? Yeah, asterisk for sure. But it just like wasn't possible for me to like put it over this. This movie just was like literally firing on all cylinders. It was so good.
You know, Bran, one movie out of 10 might change your life forever.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. This is also like technically another shonen action entry on my list, but really what makes the film so special is the emotional depth of its quieter moments, its romantic drama, and the tragedy of its characters who can never find happiness. And being a film does show a noticeable upgrade in the animation, but it's even more appropriate because of how cinematic all of the storytelling is, how much the subject of film itself plays a role. Like I just mentioned a quote from the film. They spend the beginning of the film watching films in a theater. Like it's very appropriate for this to have been a film. And unlike Demon Slayer, it actually fits a complete story arc in a runtime that the protagonist of Pompo the Cinephile would approve of. Almost. And yeah, it is a sequel to the first season of the TV series, but it is so effective in telling its own story that it can almost stand on its own too. And we mentioned Kensuke Yoshio, and his music is always phenomenal, but the juxtaposition of dissonant tones in this movie is actually the perfect opportunity for him to flex as one of the best composers for both the poignant pathos and the off-the-wall spectacles of otherworldly violence. So even if Chainsaw Man didn't click for you before, I highly recommend checking this out. Like I was alluding to, it's barely more than an hour and a half. So about half the length of Demon Slayer Infinity Castle Part 1 of 3. And yeah, it's incredible how much it accomplishes in that time. Complete story being told, so many different emotional highs and lows, romance, drama, action, philosophy on the power of film. So it's been my number 1 film of the year, anime or otherwise, since I watched it, and I just saw that it's also the number 1 film of the year on Letterboxd.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. We've taken over.
That's crazy. The film bros are in shambles right now.
The like, film bros have been overtaken by the weebs.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kensuke Ushio because it's so insane that anytime this dude does a soundtrack, you're like, I just found the best piece of Kensuke Ushio music I've ever heard. Until he releases his next one, and then you're like, oh my god.
The Pool.
Yeah, In the Pool has definitely been in the roto all year. But yeah, I think you talked about the balance it pulls off of both the quiet moments and just like the adrenaline pumping action. And honestly, I love how it looked in the second half, and it was like such an amazing and exhilarating watch. But honestly, the first half of the movie is like the part I needed to hit, and I needed it to be done well. And both the like Makima movie part as well as Denji and Reze at the abandoned school or the school at night, I should say. Both were just so perfect. I think that is easily the part when they first jump in the pool is my favorite single moment in a movie from last year, probably.
Yeah.
If I had to just like pick a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It's just so good.
It is so good. Okay, and we've got a few more of these lists from other people, so I'll round off the last 2 from my friends, and then Mark, if you want to queue up Chris's list after that.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, so from Soul Mephist, number 5, new Pantheon stocking with garter belt. Number 4, Takopi's Original Sin. Number 3, City the Animation. Number 2, 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, second season. And number 1, Chainsaw Man, the movie Rose arc. And then from Ancient One, number 5, Shoshimin series, second season. Number 4, Kowloon Generic Romance. Number 3, To Be Hero X. Number 2, The Apothecary Diaries, second season. And number 1, Apocalypse Hotel.
Nice. And so then from Chris Beveridge, webmaster at Fandom Post, at number 5, he has The Summer Hikaru Died. At number 4, Please Put Them On Takamine. At number 3, With You and the Rain. Number 2, The Too Perfect Saint, Tossed Aside by My Fiancé and Sold to Another Kingdom. And at number 1, I Have a Crush at Work, which is one that I've been wanting to get to and just haven't yet.
All right. Are we ready to dig into our best anime of the year?
Ooh, it's time.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go, Cain.
Hey. So, my number 1 anime of the year is none other than Ranma, the second season. So, for a very similar reason that Don was up there at number 2, Ranma is also up there for its great mix of humor, unpredictability, especially in the beach episode, which I think was the best one all season, fighting sharks. Ranma using his own weakness against himself, but to benefit himself. Just like every other episode, turning into some obscure, stupid martial arts competition. In this case, martial arts watermelon smashing. I just absolutely love Ranma at this point. It's such a fun ride. I love also having to try to explain it to people because it makes you sound certifiably insane trying to be like, well, he turns into a girl when he gets like cold, but hot water changes him back. But then he's scared of cats, and then shampoo turns into a cat. Like all this other stuff, and I just look forward to watching it every single week. I think it has that great HD 2D look to it, where it keeps the charm of the original anime and manga while having some of its rough edges kind of sanded down a bit to be more palatable for a modern audience, except the fact that they don't put nipples in anything because they're fucking cowards. But yeah, it's just something that I really look forward to every week, and every episode made me laugh in one way, shape, or form, whether it's Shampoo learning that Ranma hates cats, so she turns herself into a cat on purpose every time he pisses her off because she knows it freaks him out, to Moose eventually falling into a cursed pond of his own and he turns into a duck, but his duck form has stupid bangs and glasses for a haircut, which I absolutely adore. And just the dynamic between all of them. And I think, Mark, you said you liked, was it Ukyo? The Takoyaki girl? Yeah, she's introduced in this season and is a good addition as well to being in this pseudo, but not like love triangle with Ranma and everything. And poor Akane is constantly like harassed and harangued, even though she's technically the fiance. And you get those little brushes every once in a while that Ranma and Akane truly care for each other a little bit deeper than they let on, but they're both so like prideful and focused on whatever their individual goals are that they don't really allow themselves to say it out loud, even though they always try to rescue each other or defend each other when push comes to shove and the cards are on the table. Be that as it may, Shampoo is my favorite, and I don't think that's ever going to change because she's just a conniving little brat. And the lady who performs her is perfect. Like, the high pitched voice and everything, and how it's so like soft and dainty, but she says the most cutting bullshit is so good. Like, and she's they're all competent fighters in their own right, and with their silly techniques and things like that. But yeah, I just really, really love it. And I know we talked a little bit at one point, I think a few episodes ago, where there's a chance it could become a little worn down after a while because of the status quo of everything, and that it is, it's got its sitcom vibes and stuff. But really, it hasn't happened yet. So at this point, it's still definitely my favorite from the year. And I look forward to more as long as we're getting more. I think a season 3 was already confirmed. But
maybe.
Don't quote me on that. If anything, it's wishful thinking at this point, but I certainly hope that we do get more of it, because it looks great and it's really hilarious as far as I'm concerned. And we may never get anywhere with curing any of these people's curses, but I think that's part of the charm of it. It's most of the jokes, so
yes. Yeah, and in fact, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, and yeah, Ranma's my number one, and that was the only one I really didn't have any problem putting on the list. I was like, this is pretty clear for me at this point, just bet. And then it was all the others that I had various internal struggles and turmoil about.
Yeah, I think I've observed that the ranking on your list is proportional to the amount of times a character changes forms by getting splashed by hot or cold water.
Yeah. Yeah, GG is literally a Ranma reference. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, he literally sings the classic Ranma theme song when he realizes his curse.
Yeah, that is funny because it is Dandadan is also a show, like you said with Ranma, that it's so incomprehensible to try to explain to somebody the premise of. Like, there's just too much shit going on to like put it in an elevator pitch.
I don't remember the context, but there was some point not that long ago that I had to try to explain that the golden balls were literally golden balls, but also golden balls in the slang sense, and they were actually literally both somehow. Yeah.
Speaking of golden balls, me trying to describe the plot of Golden Kamui to my girlfriend today, I'm literally like, there's a lot of good stuff going on. I'm sorry.
You tried.
Yeah.
And that can be part of the fun, I suppose.
Yes.
But that also has gold and balls, but,
Very, very true. It's interesting in that one of my biggest pet peeves from media in general is when people are like, you can just turn your brain off and enjoy it, because to me that means it's not engaging you. And Ranma, you kind of do both. You have to turn your brain off a little because it's not going to make sense, but you have to keep your brain fully engaged because the world it builds is going to be completely illogical, but yet somehow have logic, and you have to make sure you're paying attention.
Yes.
Or something will happen 5 minutes into the episode and you'll be lost instantaneously. So
it's very deliberate chaos.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Did you have another comment, Bran, or is that?
No, that was it. I was gonna mention the GG thing as well with the water.
Okay.
So
Nice.
That was funny.
Yeah, I should go back and listen, because I don't know if Ranma, if I was paying attention at that point when it happened, or if I'd pick it up if I could see that, because that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, to be perfectly honest.
Wow.
It's honestly worth a rewatch just to see what GG does in the background, because he's constantly just in the background doing a little dance or something, you know? So
he's got Ranma energy, period.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Bran, on to your number one.
All right. My number one anime of 2025 was City, the animation. Big passion project for Kyoto Animation, as they previously adapted the author Keiichi Arawai's Nichijou, another beloved comedy property, and I love that one too, but I feel like City, the animation for me, does everything that I think Nichijou fell short. And part of that is, with your complaints with it, Cain, is that the jokes don't always land. And that is still the case for some parts of City for me. But Nichijou, I feel like more so, there were definitely some dud skits or like characters that get their own skits that I don't care as much about. But the thing that I think made Nichijou special is not only how like overly simplified and cute the designs are, but how overly animated it also gets despite the simplicity of how it looks. But also the interconnectivity of it. And a part of Nichijou that always struck me was in the ending credits. It's just kind of like a scrolling. They're like scrolling around the city of where Nichijou takes place, and you see the characters just like walking, doing their daily life thing, and that always struck me when I would see it. Be like, oh, I love how interconnected it makes this all feel, and like even though most of the time you're at the school in Nichijou, like you can feel that they're all connected in some way in this city. And then the author made City, and it's literally exactly what I dreamed like Nichijou could be. This like the interconnectedness of all these goofball ass characters, like literally all of them are so silly. And yeah, this thing was just a treat for the eyes and the ears, and this is gonna sound a bit hyperbolous, but this is like to me what anime was like meant to be, just like the most just like carefree and silly and fun and beautiful. It's just for me the peak of like what the genre can be sometimes, and Kyoto Animation especially being the one at the helm of it like makes sense to me. I just love this show through and through. So yeah, City number 1.
Yeah, the over animation is something that I particularly enjoy. I was trying to think of some of the more like wordplay jokes and other things that I got, and I think while being of the sort that I normally don't get, and granted, there's nothing Japanese about this one in particular, and while there's a lot of physical slapstick comedy that I enjoyed more so than anything else, for some reason the skit that sticks out in my head the most compared to any of the others is when they go to that bakery and they want to buy the roll at market price and they can't figure out what the fuck it is. Like what the market price is, and if the roll is fresh, and I think he charges them like 20 cents and she drops it only to learn that it was a microwave from yesterday, and he puts another one out and then he wants like $20,000 for it or something. Like
yeah. It is absurd. It's to me like what you said about Don to Don, where it's like you can throw on an episode and not know what the hell's gonna happen next, and you love it for that. That was me watching this show, being like, I have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's a whole 5-minute skit about just sliding noodles into some guy's bag on accident, only to do it again later. Yeah. No, good choice. Good choice.
Thank you.
This is one of the shows I was thinking about just putting on like the English dub once or twice to see what the hell that's even like.
Honestly, it could be a big win for you if maybe some of those, like weird, specifically Japanese type jokes don't land.
Yeah. So maybe out of curiosity, I'll just pop one on and be like, how do you even like dub this appropriately in the first place?
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot here, but do you feel like this would be like top 10 all time for you? Since you have both when it was airing and just now. I think when it was airing, you literally called it the greatest anime of all time.
The greatest thing I've ever seen.
The greatest, perhaps, piece of media of all time.
Yeah, I did. I was definitely... Yeah, I definitely was saying some shit like that. But honestly, it could be there. I think we talked about recently, kind of before we made the lists, that it's been a while since I reassessed, my top 10, top 20, like favorite anime specifically of all time, and how you would treat like something you haven't seen in 20 years, but like was so meaningful to you then, I'd be hard pressed to probably get it in the top 10, but I think it can easily be top 20 of all time. But, you know, it depends. Maybe a reassessment is in order because this show was so monumentally good to me specifically that maybe I need to look back and see what else ends up in there.
Interesting. Right. Mark, what is your number one?
Yeah, so my number one was My Dress Up Darling season 2. For anybody that knows anything about me, there was absolutely no other choice that was going to be made here. This was a series I think Bran, you said earlier you kind of caught on to this during the first season. I did too. I did catch up with the manga afterwards, but this is one that I first came to my attention during the first season, and I fell in love with it immediately. And so I spent the next 3 years just pining away for season 2 to come out. And much like Fragrant Flower, what I said before about Fragrant Flower, I mean, part of the reason why this one really jumped out at me when I first saw it in season 1 a few years ago was that it's a series that they don't let anything fester. It's definitely leans on the humor more than Fragrant Flower does, but much like everybody in Fragrant Flower, like Gojo and Marine don't let anything just sit for the sake of drama. If they have a problem, they talk it out and they move on with it, which is really nice. Helps keep everything moving, and keeps things pretty even keel. And I just fell in love with the characters. And so, as I said, I followed the manga, and so I was really excited coming into this season because it was sort of the part that of the manga that where I feel really sort of takes off, and I thought Cloverworks just absolutely killed it. It's very clear in this that this was a passion project for them, as much as anything. They dialed up the production values. The animation was better, and certainly for just a it's not really a slice of life show, but for a slice of life style kind of rom com, the production values in this season were pretty insane, and they just had a lot of fun with a lot of things. And you can clearly tell, as I said, that they just loved what they were trying to animate. And so you get things like like when Maureen buys the camera and they do the photo shoot just because she has a camera. So they're just walking through the park and Gojo is just taking pictures of her. That is something that's like a page or two in the manga and is 5 minutes in the anime. I loved when she's over at his house eating, and they're informing her about all the process for making Hina dolls and how many they make and whatnot, and all of a sudden they're just all puppets. And they it's one of those things you get in a lot of anime where kind of like the anime stops to talk about to explain a concept, and that's kind of like what this is doing. And so it just randomly turns into a children's television show because they're Muppets now. It was very clearly a love letter to the season, and I was absolutely looking forward to it going into it, and and when you get that hyped for something, there's always that fear, like, oh God, it's not going to live up to what I think it's going to do, and it surpassed everything that I wanted from it. So, and yeah, yeah, there's my number one.
Something another reason why, for me, the second season just felt so much bigger than the first, or not bigger, but like both of them do it very well. But the second season's when it like really, caught its claws in me. Was there's a whole genre at this point of like cute girls doing thing, right? Where like there's like the subject is like, oh, like this girl's a chef, or like this girl like does this or that, or like this mundane job, but they're going to go into detail about them doing it. And for the most part, those shows do have informative moments, but it's really about like, oh, I love looking at the cute girls, and like whatever they're doing doesn't matter to me. I feel like this show really respects what all the characters are interested in, and it takes it seriously when they're showing you how cosplay works, like what being at a cosplay convention's like, the etiquette of taking pictures of cosplayers. Like they really try to hit every minute detail to show you the love of why people are into this, and like what it takes to be like into something like that, and to be good at it. And similarly, Gojo, gets pulled into this world, but it doesn't take away from the fact that like he has a craft he's been honing his whole life, and he's learning a new one while at the same time respecting the traits and traditions of what he's learned with the Hina doll crafting through his family. And there aren't a lot of shows in that particular type of genre that I think respect the subject matter as much as this one did. And like, that's what really floored me and like really got me interested in the second season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think part of what makes that also all really stand out is that for all of the attention it gives to the cosplay and it gives to her in particular. I mean, obviously she's the symbol of the series, right? This is his story. It's not her story. This is Gojo's story, and so it's paying respect to all of that through his respect to all of that. As you said, like he's got his own thing going on, and this is almost kind of like a side project that becomes a passion project for him. And we get to learn it all along with him, and that sort of helps bring it in for us. And this is the season where he really kind of takes off. And I think that's a large part of what you're saying. To me, anyway, that's a large part of what you're saying too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think all of those kind of tie into the main theme of what makes the series special and how it kind of established itself from the very beginning, which is that it's not about cosplay, it is about passion, and it's about respecting everyone else's passion and empathizing with their passions, even if you don't understand them, because we all have our own passions, and even if someone else's seems incomprehensible to you, you can understand the feelings of being passionate about something and can respect that this is just as special to them. And that's, what set Monine apart and, made her so much more than just the popular, beautiful girl at school, is that she respected Gojo's passions, and she fell in love with him because he has the same level of mutual respect right back. And that's, most of the characters we meet are in the cosplay sphere, but that is just the prevalent theme throughout, is respect of everyone around you and how you all care about something just as deeply.
Yeah. And I think it does a really funny thing, and this season kind of the first season, it follows the manga pretty much almost exactly. The second season twists some things around at the very beginning, so it kind of does the same thing as the first season does. Because like I remember when the first season came out, there was the thing that really brought it to everybody's attention was the second episode when she comes to his house to get her measurements, and she's hanging out in his bedroom in her tiny bathing suit while he's freaking out trying to get her measurements. And it's a really funny scene, but obviously it's also a scene that is 100% playing up the fan service and and being like, check out this girl in the tiny bathing suit. And this season kind of does the same thing, starting out with the bunny suit. The first couple episodes are sort of in reverse order from where they are in the manga, but it's like, hey, we're going to throw her out there in this sort of sexy outfit and really play up the fan service potential here. And now that we've got you here, now we're going to give you a really cool story with some really interesting characters, and we're going to kind of ignore all of the rest of that.
Spiritually, this show is like the opposite of Rent a Girlfriend.
Yes, yeah. This will not be the last thing I ever say about this series because I can't shut up about it. But the coffin video game that he plays, I desperately want to play that.
Yeah.
So that was, I remember reading about it in the manga, and I was sort of always I was kind of like, oh, I wonder, I'm hearing the rhetoric of it. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting and whatnot, and didn't think a whole lot of it other than it's a just a mechanic in the story. And then the way they actually rendered it in the anime, I'm like, okay, I want to play that game. You need to make that game. I need to play this. So anyway, that was my number one. And if you'll let me, it'll be my number one for 2026 as well, because I'm sure I will watch it 37 more times this year.
All right. You don't get to just count it every year you watch it.
If that were the case, Kestrel would have One Piece at the top every time.
Well, I mean, One Piece you can make an argument for because at least it airs in every year.
It keeps going, yeah.
Right.
If you count it in a year that it didn't even air at all, that's a bit much.
At least it did. Now, who knows?
Yeah. All right. That leaves my number one, which is a break from all of my shonen action. It is the Apothecary Diaries second season. Yeah, so this is, I guess, kind of my cute anime girl doctor detective anime series, kind of, sure. But yeah, it's just one of the most cleverly plotted series out there. I agree with Cain. I think the first core of the second season was a little bit more, wasn't sure that it was going to live up. But second core turned that all around so much. It just ties together all of these seemingly disparate elements from throughout both of its seasons so far, weaves this complex narrative that feels so perfect in retrospect that it seems like it must have all been mapped out from the beginning. It's an incredibly satisfying experience, and it's so much more than what it appears. It's so much more than some of its parts. The plot, as Cain was talking about, reaches new levels of tension and danger and stakes, and it feels heavy when it needs to, but you also just have Mao Mao's attitude that always makes it just an enjoyable ride, a ton of fun, and overall the character dynamics between her and Jinshi and everyone else just continue to evolve and develop in fascinating ways. All the drama is very earned. It always finds time to deliver its comedy. It's always hilarious. It has some genuine romantic developments, some of them related to the drama at hand, some of them independent of it. And this is another production where none of the elements ever feel out of place. And yeah, it just continues to be a gorgeous production, rich, vivid colors. The music, it has 3 of the top composers in the industry, and you really get like this sonic medley of their takes on the kind of Chinese style mystery drama it has going on, and just the exploration of its Chinese aesthetics with the Japanese sensibilities. We mentioned Palace Intrigue. It is a masterclass in Palace Intrigue. And yeah, just the character study of the characters who are some of the most lovable misfits in anime.
Oh,
I'm glad it was on someone else's list. For a second, because I forgot what everyone's lists were. I was like,
Yeah.
I said it was going to be on somebody's
Yeah.
list earlier, and we are getting down to the wire here.
Yep. Just under the line there. Yep.
Boom. All according to plan.
Absolutely. Yeah, so with that, we can now aggregate our 4 lists together, as well as the lists of ourselves and everyone else who submitted them. So, yeah, I mentioned a lot of those people submitted top 10s. So even though we only focused on the top 5s, I'll go ahead and include everything that was submitted. So first, just the 4 of us aggregated together. I think for both, well, this might have a tie for number 10, but for the most part, we have a pretty good spread for a top 10 to aggregate here. So number 10 is a tie. It is the 2 number 2s that were not Chainsaw Man, which were Danadon and Amaku MD. So those had 9 points, as number 2s do. And then with 10 points, Anne Shirley at number 9. At number 8 with 10 points and 1 number 1, Ranma 1/2, second season. At number 7 with 11 points, 100 meters. Number 6 with 12 points, Grand Blue Season 2. Number 5 with 13 points and 1 number 1, City the Animation. Number 4 with 15 points and 1 number 1, My Dress Up Darling Season 2. Number 3 with 17 points, and also the number 3 of half of the people here, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. Number 2, 17 points and 1 number 1, The Apothecary Diaries second season. And number 1 with 18 points, Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc. And then, if we include everyone's lists, we get number 10 with 25 points, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle. Number 9 with 25 points, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. Number 8 with 26 points, Grand Blue Season 2. Number 7 with 26 points, To Be Hero X. Number 6 with 26 points and 1 number 1, Medalist. Number 5 with 28 points, Dandadan second season. Number 4 with 31 points and 1 number 1, The Apothecary Diaries second season. Number 3 with 37 points and 1 number 1, City the Animation. Number 2 with 40 points and 2 number 1s, My Dress Up Darling Season 2. And number 1, once again, with 56 points and 2 number 1s, Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc.
Ooh. You know, Demon Slayer can have the box office because Chainsaw Man Reze Arc has scoreboard for the Phantom Post. So,
absolutely. I mean, for the Phantom Post, for my friends, for Letterboxd, and I think it's like the number 2 anime of all time on my anime list right now. So, ooh. Yeah. Yeah, you can take that failed Golden Globe, Demon Slayer.
the meme of the guy like celebrating on the podium in 4th place, just going crazy.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else have any comments before we start rounding off and letting people know where you can find us?
I don't think
so. Good
so.
Year.
Yeah.
Good year for movies too.
Yeah.
Like anime movies, I should say.
Yeah.
We have a lot more movies on a lot of people's lists than we usually do.
That's true. I feel like that trend will only continue.
Yeah, especially since a lot of these movies were and are going to continue being like the replacements of the shows. Like they're arcs and not just like standalone films, except for like 100 meters. But a lot of these are canon of pre-existing IP and stuff. So I'm all about it. So bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, fandompost.com, and many more. We are on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Blue Sky at Fandom Post Radio. You can also reach us via email at fandompostradio@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKioma and Blue Sky at kestrelswift.bsky.social. And you can find me on the Fandom Post. Some of my recent articles include my review of the new Kaguya-sama New Year special that didn't quite make my top 10 for the year, and my coverage of Anime Los Angeles, including Hiroshi Nagahama not only talking about Flowers of Evil and the rotoscoping, as mentioned before, but also his explanation of what happened to Uzumaki.
Oh no.
Brandon, where can they find you?
I am at Hellshake Brando on most of the socials. As for Fandom Post stuff, you can read any of my previous reviews up there, but for now, I'm just on the pod, baby.
And Mark?
Yep, you can find me on Blue Sky at mdthomas.bsky.social. Also, my reviews on the Fandom Post, where I dropped a whole ton of episode 1 reviews in the last week or so. But for this season, I will be following Tamon's B-side and Wash It All Away. So.
And due to a clerical error, we have exclusive rights to Cain's likeness in eternal perpetuity, so you'll find him right here.
Yeah, I've made a grave mistake.
Right. Well, thank you to everyone who submitted lists. Thank you to everyone for listening to us talk about our favorites of the year. And we'll see you next time at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
That's right.
See you in 2026.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.